Hello. This week, let's have a look at the basics of how a keg works, the various parts, and how to get you started with the very basics. There are loads of you out there who are new to kegging, and this should help you get started. Here we have a range of kegs. They come in various sizes from 5 to 19 litres. Now, they actually all work on the same principle, so if you know about this 5 litre one, for example, the same rules will apply for all the others. There are very slight differences that we will go through. The smaller 5 and 10 litre kegs use a dispense cap that screws into the keg, and the larger 9, 12 and 19 litre versions have a lid that can only be taken out when there is no pressure in the keg. Now, this is actually a safety feature, as you can imagine that removing the lid whilst there's pressure in the keg could turn the actual lid into a proper weapon. The kegs are actually really simple. They're a closed vessel that rely on CO2 to push the beer out via a dip tube that runs right to the bottom of the keg. There's a post for the gas in, and there's a post that's connected to a dip tube for the product out. When the lid is on, it's a closed vessel. Nothing can get in or out. Now, mostly there's an indication of which post is which, normally saying out on one side. However, universally, grey gas in posts have a notch or a slash or perhaps a no, as you can see here. If in any doubt, take the lid off and you'll see that the long dip tube is always on the black product out post. Both gas and product out posts are connected with what are referred to as disconnects. These tend to be plastic, but they are actually also available in stainless. These disconnects are not interchangeable. They're specially coloured for each post. Now, an easy way to remember this is grey is for gas and black is for beer. Now, if you add a disconnect to the wrong post, they can be really tricky to actually get back off, and in fact it normally actually breaks them. Now, to add a disconnect to the post, you simply lift the collar and push it onto the post. Now, this will be made a whole lot easier if you apply a food grade lube. Now, possibly you've got some of this already, perhaps laying around somewhere. If not, you need to use this. Disconnects are available as barbed or threaded. Now, we always advise threaded disconnects using John Guest adapters. It actually allows both the gas and beer line to swivel, and it really does help in a dispense setup. Beer and gas lines simply push fits into the John Guest fitting. Now, to release, hold the grey collar back and pull the line. It's a little bit tricky, but you can get the hang of it. As soon as you add a disconnect to a post, it opens the keg. That means if you add a black disconnect to a pressurised full keg, unless it's connected to a tap, it's gonna get really messy really quickly. We have new and used kegs that are made in Italy by a company called AEB. We also have kegs that are made in China. Now, the main differences are how the posts are constructed. They all have what is known as a poppet. This is activated by a spring and is sealed with a little O-ring. The AEB posts are not designed to come apart, and I do not advise trying. It will actually result in much swearing. A soaking PBW and a rinse is all that's required. Now, you can see here that these posts are simpler. They actually fall into their separate components for cleaning. Notice that the spring is conical and needs replacing in a correct way. My suggestion for cleaning kegs is that if you do take them apart, keep them like for like, with the same kit going back onto the same keg. If you have a range of different kegs that have been bought at different times, it's quite likely that the posts and dip tubes will be slightly different, and the threads from different kegs are different. So it makes it really tricky getting them back together again, and it's possible that they won't seal again correctly afterwards. Now, the last important part of a keg is the pressure release valve, or PRV. This is a safety device that will release if you over pressurise the keg, but actually it's much more than that. This enables you to fill a keg with CO2 and then you can pull the PRV. This then dumps the CO2 out of the keg. Now, once done, you now have a keg that is flushed of oxygen and ready to accept beer. The ring pull also acts to hold the PRV open. This is handy if you're doing a keg-to-keg transfer or a pressure transfer from a fermenter. Also, if you're doing this, fill the keg through the beer outside. This means the beer will gently fill from the bottom of the keg through the dip tube. That's all for this week. Have a great weekend. Cheers.